Good morning again, everybody. My name's Mike Murphy. I'm a resident of Sammamish, a native Washingtonian, and one of your hosts. We'll be introducing our other hosts through the day as we go through the program. Welcome to the Eastside, East King County, Race and Equity Summit. This virtual event represents a joint effort by Eastside for All, Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition, along with the cities of Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland, Issaquah, and Sammamish. This land we know as East King County is the unceded and ancestral land of the Coast Salish, Duwamish, Snoqualmie, Stillaguamish, and Suquamish people. We honor and give thanks to the land itself and to the First Peoples, past and present. Please join us in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for our Indigenous neighbors and their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Before we get started, we've got a few housekeeping items to take care of. First and foremost, we're encouraging everyone to hold a gracious space for this online community today. Gracious space encourages great respectful listening and equitable opportunities for sharing for all, especially in those breakout rooms. If you're concerned about behavior that you're seeing in the breakout rooms, you'll be able to message a host for help. We're asking that you keep your cameras off until breakout rooms begin so we can save some bandwidth for the videos we're going to be showing. Thanks, I see people taking care of that now. If you have any questions or you need assistance, you can send a chat message to Yuriana Garcia. She won't be able to answer any questions about advocacy work today, but will keep those questions on file and either send answers to you in a post-event email or follow up with you directly. And lastly, this event is being recorded except for the breakout rooms. We'll send you a link for the video along with other follow-up materials and resources so you can stay connected with the work and the events that are taking place around the East Side. Our theme today is Bridging History and Story, Building the Next Chapter for Racial Equity. And we are very, very fortunate to have as our keynote speaker, Mr. Delbert Richardson, a storyteller, a creator, an ethnomuseumologist, and the architect of the national award-winning Unspoken Truths Traveling Museum. Delbert's going to lead us into sharing of our own experiences and allow us to connect with our history in the Pacific Northwest, some of our history in the Pacific Northwest, as well as our national American history. I especially appreciate Delbert because we share that link between our homes here in the Pacific Northwest and our family roots in the southern states. With that, thanks very much, and I'm passing over to Delbert.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much, Michael. As stated, my name is Delbert Richardson. I'm a community scholar, second generation storyteller, and more importantly, I would probably say I'm a proud parent and loving husband. I want to thank everyone that took the time on this Saturday to spend with us. And a special thanks to, I'm just going to say a couple of names because they're the ones that's standing in front of me. I want to thank Debbie, Ken, and Monica Negrala, hope I said that right, for the intentional work that you've done on making this possible. And to our sponsors, Eastside for All, and all the other sponsors, we thank you, we appreciate you. And I cannot go without thanking a very good friend of mine and business partner, Noni Irvin, who is here supporting me with the PowerPoint. You know, I'm humble beyond recognition because, you know, this is not what I prefer to be doing on a Saturday. I'd rather be on a golf course because it's been raining for the last few days, but it's not possible. And probably equally important, I really rather be speaking to children and young adults because the majority of my work is centered around children and young adults. But this reminds me of my responsibility to serve community and family. So I want to get right into the presentation because we only have a half an hour. And my mind's going like a hamster wheel regarding what am I not going to share. So the first thing I want to do, I want everybody just to close their eyes and take 3 deep breaths. 1, 2, and 3. And if you can see me, I'm going to take your hands and do like this here. And what you're doing, you're sending me some love, okay? I really, really want and need some love today for this presentation because I am struggling. I'm full of emotions, and the air is thick as we do our best to hold healthy spaces. So I'm going to take 2 cues from the flyer. I'm going to read them, and then what I'm doing is get started with the presentation, okay? One of the cues says, transforming Eastside, East King County into a place where racial economics and social justice is made possible for communities of color. The word transform, I want you to hold on to that because the transform means to not be able to go back. For example, a tadpole to a frog, a caterpillar to a butterfly, and the last one, I believe, is a cucumber to a pickle, right? So I'm in the words, right? And so I want to make sure we understand we use that word transform. We're not talking about change. We're talking about actually almost like a rebirth. And the second one, which really I think aligns with the presentation, use history and stories to increase awareness and provide context for the need, and I added want in there, to racial equity in East King County. And I say the want because if you're on this Zoom, I want to believe that you want change to happen. You want it. And if you want it, that's going to require some actions. And I think that's going to come up in the presentation. He who tells the story controls the narrative. My work is called the American History Travel Museum, The Unspoken Truths, and everything I say and do is intentional. It's called the American History Travel Museum because I have this belief that sometimes we're told that history is told through a specific lens, a Eurocentric lens. And so by calling American history, I get a chance to see myself in the story. And so as we go through this presentation, there's going to be a few things that come up that's going to support that. So I want to get started with the PowerPoint because there's a lot of information and it's going to be rich in terms of how we frame the learning, okay? So the first slide is my logo. And the second slide, this is Delbert and his work, I think, supreme. You see the babies on the floor? You see me on my knees? This is the storytelling that I really want to embed. Look at their eyes. But if you look at the background, it's so important. My work is primarily geared for children and young adults. But as you can see, just to the back of me is a Ku Klux Klan robe. And so in elementary school, middle school, and high schools, I share with them that part of American history that some of us adults struggle with. And so my goal is to go back to the original comments, is to provide awareness. And so what I'm doing, I'm sharing awareness of specific artifacts. And the goal is to provide information in a way that creates curiosity, that leads to critical inquiry, that will embark them on their own journey of self-discovery. So I think it's important that you see this picture here because this is our future. This is why we're here. So the next slide is really us, is really the museum. I'm gonna go through this rather quickly. Some of you guys have experienced my work, but this is the American History Travel Museums in 4 parts. First part's Mother Africa. Second part's is American chattel slavery. Third part is Jim Crow. I don't teach civil rights, I teach Jim Crow. And the fourth section is African-American inventions and inventors. So this is my story. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but what I learned by going to University of Washington is that I can choose how I want to self-identify. So my work is primarily geared for African-American males and BIPOC males. And so what you're seeing is that rich history is coming out of Mother Africa, and you're seeing the inventions. So what I'm sharing is that this is Delbert's story, is that I come from a rich culture and a rich heritage, and I have the capabilities of changing the world through innovation. But slavery and Jim Crow had two things in mind: keep me from who I am and what I can accomplish. The next slide, and let's get into the work. So this is why we're here. This is a book that I use. Now, if you can keep this in mind, I'm taking you on a journey that I take children and young adults. So they're primarily mostly adults in this Zoom, which is great, but this is really how I go into schools. And so I use authentic artifacts, storyboards, and storytelling, but I also reference books. So if they wanna improve their level of knowledge, and also to check my resources, I provide those. So let me take you through this one section on page 4 of this book, and it's so important. It's Ronald Takaki. He's a professor at University of Washington at the time, and this is an excerpt out of page 4. And there's a little bit of a story before, but I don't have time. So what he's saying is, as a result of this cab ride in New York, something's coming up. And he's referencing the cab driver. He says, what I call the master narrative. According to this powerful and popular but inaccurate story, our country was settled by European immigrants, and Americans are white. Race, observed Toni Morrison, has functioned as a metaphor necessary of the construction of Americanism. In the creation of our national identity, American has been defined as white. Not to be white is to be designated as the other, different, inferior, or unassemblable. I want you all to hold on to that word other. It's not highlighted intentionally, but we're going to talk about othering as we go through this. So when my friend and I and Noni were doing this PowerPoint, we actually spent a lot of time just on this slide because there's so much in here. We could spend an hour just on this slide, but we don't have the time. So for time purposes, we're going to move to the next slide. Okay, so family, we can really get into the work. This is where I go into school, and I say this. Oftentimes we use words and phrases, but do we all have a working knowledge or agree to a specific definition of a word? So for me, I wanted to actually lay out a foundation based on a collective agreement on a definition. I say that because there may be other definitions. So the first definition that we're going to talk about is race, and I'll just read it out loud. A group of people identified as distinct from other groups because of supposed physical and genetic traits shared by the group, okay? We all know that race is a made-up concept. There's no biological connection to race, have any differences in regard to skin color and hair. But the next word is racism, and we talk about it a lot. And we also talk about anti-racism in the description of the workshop. But let's talk about racism. Here's a definition I love because it's full of words. A belief that people differ along biological and genetic lines, and that one's own group is superior to another. This belief is coupled with the power to negatively affect the lives of those perceived to be inferior. This is from a good friend's book that some of you guys may be familiar with, Dr. Joy DeGruy, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. So what I'd like you to do, we don't have time to do a workshop, but what I want you to do is just look at that definition of racism and just pick out one word that stands out. Just one word. It's not right or wrong. And this is what I do in the classroom. So I want to engage the students in the learning. So pick out one word. Okay. So my one word is belief. Okay, there's a reason why I say belief, because as we go to the next slide, I'll explain a little bit more. So just hold on to that word belief. How you doing, David? So the question becomes where do our belief systems come from? I'm asking the question, where do our belief systems come from? Our parents, our friends, our churches, our peers. So that's that foundation, right? So next slide, please. So what I want to share with you is the names of some individuals. And one is Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Henry Bacon. So these are just some statements made by individuals that were held in high esteem. But I want you to understand how they set this whole ball in motion. So Benjamin Franklin, why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America, where we have so far an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies, or increasing the lovely white and red? Thomas Jefferson, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, who also owned some of my ancestors. He wrote, I advanced it, therefore it's a suspicion only that the blacks, whether originally a distinct race or made distinct by time or circumstances, are inferior to the whites in the endowment of both body and mind. And I'm just going to read this last one. Abraham Lincoln, the signer of the Emancipation Proclamation. His statement is, there's a physical difference between the white and the black race, which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together. While they do remain together, they must be the position of superior and inferior, and I, as much as any man, am in favor of having a superior position assigned to the white race. And so the question is, are you guys aware that these statements were made? Now, we can talk about beliefs, and if these men were seen and held in high esteem, then what they say had value and had depth. So here's that foundation of a propaganda program to discredit, dehumanize, and devalue me and my ancestors. So I want you to just hold on to this. The next slide. We're going to get into the work. That's the historical part. And so because this is a East King County theme, I wanted to make sure that I supported that. So I pulled out portions of my museum to support that. So this is the section called State of Washington's Racist Past. And I got the question marks, right? Is it really the past? So this is the state of Washington. Bottom left picture is Seattle. I believe the top one is Bellingham. The one to the right is Cedar-Woolley. And the one in the very middle is Renton, Washington. This is not Louisiana. This is not Texas. This is liberal Seattle. This is so important for context. I share this information with my East King County family. Next slide. What I want to do is show you it just wasn't enough that the Klan was here. They set up these covenants to make sure that they excluded others. This is that word. So you can actually locate this information online. And I know all of us has been either Green Lake, Lawhurst, Broadmoor, Queen Anne, and Ballard. The one thing that was consistent in all these covenants was the top one. No person or person of Asiatic, African, or Negro blood, lineage, or extraction shall be permitted to occupy a said province. So in other words, if you are not part of the dominant culture, if you're not consider yourself white, if we don't view you as white, don't even try to buy land. Don't even try to rent, because there are covenants and laws that will exclude that. Next slide. And I want to make this a Northwest focus. And so a good friend of mine sent me this storyboard to the right. Kennewick and Richland were sundown towns. I'm not sure if you guys are aware what sundown towns are. You can look it up. So I actually posted a copy of a book that I own that talks about all the sundown towns in the United States. what I wanted to show the connection to the national oppression of Black and brown people and bring it local. Because there's this longstanding belief by my white friends and my white colleagues that a lot of this happened in the South. I'm just here to show you that's true, but we have our own issues here in the Northwest. So here is, I've gone from Seattle and I've gone to Kennewick. But what I've done, I wanted to make sure that I supported the East Side. So the next slide is specifically geared towards the East Side. And this I just pulled up online. So let's just go through a few. And just so you know, Bellevue had about 6, Kirkland had about 5, Mercer Island had about 4. So my friend and I, Noni, went through and just pulled out some specific ones. And so I wanted to highlight some of the covenants. So in Bellevue, no person of African, Japanese, Chinese, or any other Mongolian descent. Clyde Hill, extremely racist. This property shall not be resold, leased, rented, or occupied except to or by people of the Aryan race. Kirkland, I'm just going to read the highlight. Except a domestic servant actually employed by a white occupant of Mercer Island. I'm going to take a deep breath on this one here because this really stood out. Said property shall not be sold, conveyed, granted, or leased in whole or in part to any Hebrew person or family or any person or family not of the white race, nor shall any Hebrew person or other person not be of the white race be permitted to occupy any portion of said property or any building thereon except a domestic servant actually employed by the owner said property. So the question I have to ask myself, are there any of my Jewish brothers and sisters living in Mercer Island right now? I would have to say yes. I would ask you, do you guys know of anybody that are Jews in Mercer Island? So let's go over to the right to North Bend. Here again, highlighted, except as servants domesticated with any other owner or tenant. Here's Redmond. It's restricted to those of Caucasian race. Are you guys seeing a theme here on the East Side? Are you guys feeling it? I want you to know this is not Texas. This is not Kentucky. Here's Redmond. Shall be occupied by persons of white race except that servants not of the white race but actually employed by white occupants therefore may reside on this property. And Sammamish, last but not least, no title or interest right of occupancy shall ever, you see the word ever, shall ever become invested in any person other than that of a Caucasian race. So I looked for something for Issaquah, I didn't see it, but we can make some assumptions, ladies and gentlemen, that those values, here again, those beliefs had held true here. I just want to stay on this slide for a second, because these are neighborhood restricted covenants, East Side suburbs. So the question becomes, is the culture on the East Side in some ways still support, maybe not in terms of actual covenants, but about beliefs and how people are being treated? Next slide, please. So we're going to move from there. And this is actually the last slide of the presentation because there's a lot in here and because of time. And I want to thank my friend, Monica Negrilla. Hope I'm saying that right. My friend and I, Noni, we really, you gave us a lot of information. So what we did was, I decided to take 2 of the slides because I want to tell 2 different stories. If you look at the one on the left on Issaquah, she gave me these kind of pie charts for every area on the East Side. But for context, I want you to see the orange in Issaquah, which represents Asian, and look at the proportional increase. Okay, that's the increase of brown people on the East Side that identify as Asian. Plus there's Black and African, but I want, for context, just coloring. So that's the increase brown people, my language, on Issaquah. And in Bellevue, I want you to see the decrease in the blue of the white population. So this is what we are, ladies and gentlemen. We're having an increase of people of color on the East Side and a decrease of people that identify as white or have been reported as white. So the question I would ask, and thank you so much, Noni and team, for this. The question I would ask, what's our responsibility towards change? I wanted to share this information with you because I really think it's important for purposes of the summit that we start off with a foundation of awareness of where we've been, where we're at, and what's going to take for us to get to the next level. So the house is burning, ladies and gentlemen. This is my language. You know, we've got a political system right now that's really trying to send us backwards instead of forwards. And I think we have a responsibility to be the agents of change. So the question I want to ask us, what are we willing to do to get back to our humanity? This is an individual question. Now, you may hear me say white people, black people, and brown people, and that's my language. I'm talking about groups of people. And if that's landing individual, let's talk about that. But I'm talking about how do we get back to a place to where we start valuing people based on humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, this is hard work. This is hard work. So the question becomes, are you willing? Are you willing to do the work that's necessary personally to transform? You know, I'm just going to say this. I love it when I see all the Black Lives Matter signs and see all the T-shirts and sweatshirts, and that's great. But the question becomes, those shirts come off. Those signs at some point will go away. So the question is, what kind of action are you willing to take to make sure that things transform for our children? So in closing, we're into a couple of pandemics. We're into COVID, but we're into racism, which to me is extreme pervasive pandemic in the world. And I must apologize right now because I meant to pay honor to some of the losses, and I want to make sure I don't forget that, to John Lewis, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Breonna Taylor and family, all of the individuals that lost their lives as a result of COVID unnecessarily. And I definitely always want to honor the ancestors whose shoulders I stand, who came over on ships, and those ones that were hung unnecessarily in the South because of the color of their skin. So, in closing, I really just want us all to think about 4 words: courage, empathy, humanity, self-reflection, and the willingness to change for the good of humanity. Thank you very much.
Delbert, thank you so much for that. And Mike, definitely thank you so much for your introduction. Delbert, before you jump off here, sending you some love, as you shared at the very beginning, sending you some love there. That was amazing and definitely learned a lot. Delbert, how do people get a hold of you? How do people kind of find out a little bit more about what you offer, what you share?
Thank you, Ken. And thank you, Ken, for being the first point of contact. My website is www.theunspokenTruths.com. That's plural. And I do work with schools primarily, but I also do professional development work and diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And I use the museum as a tool for us all to get to that place of a deeper understanding of awareness, so we can get to the place of individual healing, which will lead to community healing.
Thanks, Delbert. You also definitely shared a little bit about how this still, the beliefs are still here in our nation, but also on the East Side. What can we do differently about changing some of the beliefs?
Well, thank you, Ken. And you said, and this is a Delbertism. This is an individual journey. So I want people to say, what can I do? Right? Because we start this is me. So when I start thinking about the way, I may get into judgment, and I'm making this up, making a judgment. Why isn't Ken doing this? Why isn't Mike doing this? But when I start with the I, that's the part I have the most control and influence on. So when I start working on the why in terms of self-discovery, self-reflection, then us I's together can come together as a we. So I'm hoping that, and I saw this in the flyer, there's a series of actions that's going to come out of this. And I want you all to be extremely intentional and be gentle with yourself, because it's taken us 400 years. And I got my 1619 sweatshirt on, right? Because that's intentional. Because I want to make sure that I channeled my ancestors. So there's this saying, if it took us 400 years to walk into the woods, we can't expect to come out of it within less time. But what we can do, we can start. The question is, how do we get started? And I think the East Side coming together collectively is huge, because I was born in Detroit but raised in Seattle in the early 70s. And to tell you, we didn't come to the East Side as Black people, because there was perception, but also there was some truths that we were going to be harassed coming to the East Side because of the color of our skin. So when I start seeing all these sponsors, Sammamish, Issaquah, Redmond, Kirkland, Bellevue, I said, well, sheesh. Well, hey, they sound serious. They look serious. Now I want to see some actions to go with those looks and those sounds.
Thanks, Delbert. And I think that's the whole piece is that action piece. What I'd like to do is try to open up our chat, and please share a little bit about your reflection and what you felt about Delbert's presentation today. I'm going to pass it over to Mike there for a comment.
I just wanted to again appreciate Delbert and his presentation. It's full of learning and a reminder that it's the beginning of learning. We have significant work to do wherever we are, and wherever we are is important. It counts. What you know, what you feel you don't know, what you want to know is really what's going to get you started on your personal journey. Our purpose today is to bring all of those pieces together, bring us together, and build some momentum so that we can continue this important work.
Thank you, Mike. I'm definitely hearing some great things in the chat here. Transformative, eye-opening. Let's see, what else do we have? Really kind of looking at what's happened here in the East Side. East Side still feels alien, unwelcoming to me. Allowed, the word allowed in there. Racial history of the East Side, specifically emphasizing that racism is not a thing of the past. Other comments here. Great presentation, as always, Delbert. The East Side coming together is huge. What else do we have? Thank you for everybody for sharing in our chat here. Delbert's teachings are key to understanding. We need more of this. Absolutely. Delbert, you're going to get busy after this, Roy. Are you ready? Rebirth.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Rebirth, powerful images, especially about the East Side. The eye. What else do we have? Eye-opening, belief, as you were saying.
So can I share something, Ken, real quick?
Yes, absolutely.
So I think it's important because we're in a COVID time. You guys, a lot of you, there's quite a few that have been to museum experience. But let me just share a little bit. On the tables are actual slave shackles and restraints that my ancestors wore. On the table are actual images of my ancestors that were lynched. On the tables are authentic artifacts used in Africa. So just so you know, a lot of the discomfort in my museum comes from the teachers, not the children. It's not uncommon for the teachers, they call me Mr. D. They look at that Ku Klux Klan robe and say, Mr. D, what's that costume? Listen to the question. They're asking what's that costume, because of my age and my experience, I know what it represents. And so what happens, my own feelings associated with that sometimes will block the knowledge and the information that children so desperately need so they can understand way things were and what their responsibility is to not let that happen again. So I'm actually in the process of helping develop some anti-racist white children groups to support this work so they can be the agents of change, not for Black people, for their families. Because a lot of times those beliefs and those values have been molded by the communities they're in. And so now they're pushing back and they're saying, well, no, we don't want to treat, we don't, no, that's not nice. So I want you to know that there's this, this revolution that's happening right now with the young kids, Black, white, and brown. They are not going to accept it like my ancestors did in my group. I was born in 1954, and that's the same year Brown v. Board of Education. So, you know, they said we've had enough, and we're going to continue to push back against white supremacy, and we're going to make sure that our voices are heard.
Thanks, Delbert. I know you're talking to kind of a large group of adults here, but you said a lot of your work is with young folks. Why is that important to you, and why do you think that's the group that you want to focus on?
Well, I'm gonna go back to this. He who tells the story controls the narrative. And if you guys don't know this, that majority of history books are created, made, and shipped from Texas. And so majority of the education is taught through a Eurocentric paradigm. And so, and when I say that, I'm talking about a few white males of power have basically framed the narrative by which they want everybody to embrace. And so by giving children and young adults information, listen, I can't change anybody's mind. I'm gonna look at you, providing information that hopefully will empower them to start their own journey of discovery. And so in the museum, I'm self-taught. Everything I've learned in reading books. So there's this literacy piece that I'm challenging children and young adults also too, because you can't believe everything you see on the internet. You can't believe everything on social media. You must be willing to do the work necessary to develop your own understanding of history.
I can't believe everything I see on the internet. Where did I go wrong on that? How did I miss out on that? Wow, Delbert, I'm sending you back the love there. Thank you so much for an amazing piece there.
Hey, and guess what? I want everybody to raise their hands and send themselves some love.
There
because
you
if you're
go.
on this Zoom, it's going to be needed, because I'm telling you, it is a war, you guys. I need everyone to go out and vote. We got a person in office that's basically said, regardless of what happens, I ain't leaving. So get ready. Get ready. Get ready. Oh boy.
Oh wow,
Thank
that
you
was
all
amazing.
so much for the opportunity. Yes.
Delbert, yes. Thank you for all the work that you are doing, have done, and continue to do. That was, I know this is just such a small piece of the great presentation that you do all around. And I know you're such a wealth of information. And so please reach out to Delbert if you have any questions, or if you have, want him to come and see and join you in any of your programs that you offer there. Mike, thank you for opening, and sharing your welcoming with us at the very beginning there. That was really appreciative. Really appreciate all this.
Yeah, let me say this. This is so important. I can't see everybody, but I believe there's quite a few white people and brown people and Black people on this screen. I'd rather you email me, ask questions rather than assume. Because one of the biggest, I'm gonna say, travesties in how we've been indoctrinated is that we have embraced information as being the truth. And that's just not true. So if there's any questions that's coming up, they need a little more clarity, email me and we'll start this journey of discovery together. Thank you.
Thank you. That was just, really. And as you shared, get out and vote, really. I mean, that's kind of the key, make your voices heard. And as you shared, that I is so important in this process there, that you have to step up, you have to be the initiator. It's easy to point the fingers, It's easy to point the fingers, but
Ken, can I say one more thing, please?
Oh, absolutely.
In closing, listen to me. I mean, this is to my white friends out there, okay? I'm not looking for any allies. I'm not looking for advocates. I'm looking for conspirators and abolitionists. Words are important, because listen to what I'm saying. There were white people that made a decision during the enslavement period to risk it all for humanity. There were white people during the civil rights movement that actually rode on the Freedom Bus with John Lewis, that made a decision that they were going to support humanity. So there's advocates and there's allies piece. There's still privilege in that, because you can show up if and when you choose. But when you say I'm a conspirator, when you say you're an abolitionist, then we can get to work.
Yes, get to work. And I think that's the piece that's so important for everybody is, you know, getting to work. And I think there's work to be done and work to do and moving forward with. And thank you, Delbert, for all the work that you've done in your multiple closings with us here. Multiple closings. Love that.
Yeah. I got more, but I don't have time.
Delbert, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I want to definitely welcome you again. My name is Ken Wong, and I am part of Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition for being a part of today's event here. I get to do the next piece here to really kind of share a little bit about our youth voice and really have that be a part of our event. And so that's going to be an amazing piece. And so let me switch over here. I have the pleasure, excuse me, of introducing our youth presenter today. Her name is Bitaniya Giday. She's a student with the Bellevue School District and is recently named 2020-21 Seattle Youth Poet Laureate. She shared in an interview on KNKX her words, "Right now, I'm doing a lot of thinking about what it means to be a Black woman occupying the space as a Seattle Youth Poet Laureate, what it means as an artist to bring healing to the community, but also to represent liberation, to represent resistance." So please welcome Bitaniya Giday.
Yeah, hi all. Thank you for that introduction, Ken. So my name is Bitaniya Giday, and I will be sharing a poem for you all in this space. But before I do that, I would also like to bring into the space that I'm also part of an organization called Eastside for Black Lives, which is an all-youth Black and Brown students within the Bellevue School District and subsequent cities in Eastside. They're doing a lot of protesting here to demand the decolonization of our curriculums, but also from reallocating our police funds into helping Black communities and helping build shelters in Bellevue specifically, because we don't have a lot of shelters. We end up relocating a lot of our homeless population to cities that get overcrowded instead of building it in our own community. So that's a lot of the work that we've been doing. We actually were protesting yesterday in downtown Bellevue. So if you follow us on Eastside for Black Lives, come out, support, join the movement, the revolution. So the poem that I'm going to share with you, it's called "To All the Boys on the New Screen." It's one that I've been performing at a lot of the protests that we've done both here in Seattle. And so I'm going to start it off. To the boys on the news screen. If every time a boy dies, does his mother die along with him, whispering the trigger alive, fitting her warm body in his carcass? What if our souls are our mothers, her eyes consoled in the milk brown of his, her home made in between his bones, the movement of worlds in their hands intertwined, a coffin fit for two bodies. Sometimes I look down at my arms, half expecting to find the boys on the new screen, a baby in my hands, which is to say, I fully know the blood on my hands. If it takes a Black boy to save a village, how many for the village to say enough? Like the death of your son was a lottery, one you half expected, like the round of bullets that emptied out your uterus with the next pages in a book. And it didn't matter if it was the boy down the street that held the gun or the police. He is dead. And the most blackest of things in this world is to die a seed, is to be a garden blooming revolution, to be everything beautiful when you are the most silent, to be born one foot in the grave, the other fighting just to get free. And isn't that the truest thing you've ever heard? That we're all just trying to get free, that we all just want to die in peace, that we all want to matter before we can't breathe. Thank you.
Bitaniya, that was amazing. Thank you so much for that. Sending you some love too there. So can I jump in and ask a couple of questions to you, Bitaniya? You have a moment with us?
Yeah, go
Excellent.
ahead.
I know this is some work that you're very passionate about. What drives you to do this work and share the message that you do?
Yeah, I think it's all about the moment. I mean, we've done this work for years in the Bellevue School District, whether it's the form of our local BSUs, whether it's outside organizations. We've asked a lot of these things from our school district, whether it's asking to remove police from our campuses, whether it's asking for more inclusive history. That's happened, but I think right now there is a moment where we are all mobilizing across the nation and across the world. And so that is what really has drawn us to the streets, is to make sure that that movement keeps going and it doesn't die out, and it comes from each of one of us continuously on those streets chanting the names of all of those victims and all of those people who still don't have justice, but also chanting to kind of break that Bellevue bubble that we call it, of the safety of this very gentrified neighborhood that was once filled with Black and brown communities, that they're on gentrified lands, that are on indigenous lands, and you don't see those kinds of people here in this community. So making sure to disrupt that kind of the bubble, honestly.
You've got, in the Zoom call, a lot of adults and who definitely are active, who want to be active, or who are thinking about this. What do you want to share with them? What advice can you give us as adults?
I think someone earlier said it, a lot of the people on the streets are young people, and we're holding down the streets, but it's really dangerous for us. I think, if you're a lawyer, if you have some experience protesting, be on the streets with us, right? Because we don't know when to stop sometimes. I know yesterday we were in downtown Bellevue and we blocked a major intersection, and so we were waiting for the release order from the police, and there's a lot of wisdom that we need on those streets. So please come out and join us. But there are also other ways if you don't feel like you can participate outside because of the pandemic. We plan takeovers of our city council meetings, of our school district meetings, send letters. All these things are available on our Facebook and our Instagram. There's ways for you to participate and keep pushing. Just voting is a first step, I think, is the biggest message that we want to give you all. Voting a lot of times in November will change national politics, but local politics can start on the streets when we're pushing for those city council meetings and all those stuff. So just come support us and really give us bodies and give us your voice.
There's a quick question on chat here asking, Tanya, what would you suggest to white people who really want to change and do this work and to end racism and also decolonize some of the curriculum we have in our schools?
Yeah, I think right now what we're finding in a lot of the school districts is that superintendents are very willing to have discussions about what changes they want to make in their school districts. I think you look at Seattle, Black Minds Matter with other coalitions are the reason why police got removed from schools, and they're the reason why more race in the US teaching will happen in their schools. So start the conversation with your school district, with your superintendents, and say, look here, you need to respond to this movement that's happening. You need to be proactively anti-racist in your curriculums. Start from those conversations there. There are also a plethora of different ways to incorporate it as educators and teachers into your classroom. How to be mindful about the things that are happening in the world when you're teaching things. So I think it's up to you to read, to get educated on what does it really look like to be anti-racist, then bring that into your classroom and be super mindful of the Black students in your classrooms as well, to making sure that you're providing safe spaces for them. So I think individuals can be so transformative, especially in a classroom space. And so start that work in your own classroom is what I would recommend.
Oh,
And may I add a little more to that, please?
Absolutely.
Hi, Mike Murphy again. Also, I didn't mention this before, also with the Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition. I'm speaking particularly to those of you out there who teach, And when I say who teach, I don't mean that you are certified to teach in a school. Everybody who is a teacher, that's who I'm talking to right now. A lot of the work that we're talking about here includes listening and sharing the stories we have about the history of racism in our country. Too many times I hear colleagues of mine, I am a teacher, and I hear colleagues talk about being careful about telling too many stories because they tend to be anecdotal. And here's the deal. If so many of us have these stories and so many of them have many similarities, we're no longer an anecdote. These stories are no longer footnotes. They are small pieces that are going to help link history and tell a more complete story, where not just a dominant culture gets to tell the narrative, but it includes all of the pieces that folks have shared through the histories of our families, and small notes, small stories that we've told over time, because we don't have the documentation all the time to legitimize it, but it's there and it's true. So please remember to be a listener to these stories and include them in your teaching.
Thanks, Mike. That was great for sharing that. Quick question back to Bitaniya. My final question back to you is, you're now Seattle's Youth Poet Laureate. What do you hope to do with that voice for the time being there?
Right now, again, what is said in that article, using my voice for healing, I think there's a lot of hurt, especially watching after the indictments, or the indictments that didn't happen. In Breonna Taylor's case, when you look at a lot of the pictures in Louisville, Kentucky, you see people hurting because a lot of this movement is so personal, because it's our lives on the line. And so I think poetry is one of those revolutionary things that for a moment you're transformed and you're transported into a space where we can begin to imagine a better world. And I think that's what poetry can do super well. And I think in terms of the actual, like the title, a big part of the poet laureateship, I guess, is writing a book. And I don't know if you all are familiar, but there was a book that was released a couple years ago by Azur Savage, that talked about the Seattle public schools and what's like for Black students to be in them, all their grievances with it. So I think with the book as well, I want to document what's been happening in Seattle and Bellevue and all across the world, so we can create something that outlasts just a moment. And that's a lot of the work that I'm trying to do.
Wow. Well, everybody, you heard it here. She's working on a book, so I want mine autographed, especially from you, Bitaniya. So I'm really excited. Bitaniya, sending you the love, sending you the love. We appreciate all that you do and continue to do. And thank you for being an amazing voice for our youth and all the other folks that are out there doing the work with you. So thank you so much for joining us today. Okay. Well, if you want to share a comment or share something about what you just heard from Bitaniya, please do that. I see some things that are already happening. I'm going to pass this over to David from City of Kirkland, and sharing a few of the folks who are being a part of this event, and some organizations that are really a part of this group and doing great work out on the East Side here. So David, it is all yours. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being a part of the Race Summit this year. Really appreciate you being with us. I'm Ken Wong, and I'm part of Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition. And we want to welcome you to this summit, and also welcome you in joining us in the work that we're doing here on the East Side as part of the organization. And so if you want to learn more about Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition, or ERLC, check out our website that I'll include in this link here. Hope you enjoy the summit. Thank you.
I'm Debbie Lacy with Eastside for All, and we're building our capacity as a region to walk our talk when it comes to racial equity and social justice. We connect and support all the incredible groups and individuals working to build community power and advance racial justice in East King County. So we focus on transforming policies, practices, relationships, and investments. We believe that our strength lies together in the connecting spaces. You can find us here online, and we're so grateful for all you're doing. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nikayla Rice. I'm the co-founder of Eastside Embrace, a grassroots organization that focuses on embracing diversity. We do workshops and forums in our community, and most importantly, we amplify and support Black voices. If you're interested, go to our website at eastsideembrace.weebly.com or support by donating to Eastside Embrace on Venmo. Thank you so much for your support.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for participating in today's event. We're all amazed at you being here today, and there's so many. I'm looking at the numbers. There's 214 participants so far today, and I know people have been jumping in and off because of different commitments. So we appreciate you committing and being a part of this. We will definitely kind of have some inspiring words that was shared. So throw in the chat kind of one or two words that you're going to do. I think there was a call to action today from both Delbert and Bitaniya about what you're going to do. So share that in chat. And I am supposed to pass this over to David again to kind of share a few more videos. And you saw in the last video, who was that amazing guy who started off the videos there?
We are the Eastside Change Coalition,
a group of youth activists based in Kirkland, Bellevue, and Redmond, committed to bringing social and political change to the east side of Seattle.
As youth activists, we will unite together to tear down the current systems of power that oppress and abuse Black and brown bodies.
We will envision, build, and foster a community that is safe and equitable for all.
You can find us on Instagram at the Eastside CC or email us at eastsidechangecoalition@gmail.com.
We are the next generation, and together we will change the world.
Hello, everyone. I'm a volunteer with Indivisible Kirkland. Indivisible Kirkland's mission is to advance justice, equity, and inclusion through civic engagement at the local and state level. As a primarily white organization, we are educating ourselves and our members, focusing on anti-racism work and applying an intersectional lens to all that we do. We strive to perform true acts of allyship that are neither harmful nor performative. We view feedback as a gift. We want to support BIPOC leaders in race equity work and hope that we can connect with you soon. Thank you.
This amazing work can't happen without the leadership and guidance of Debbie Lacy. So pass it off to Debbie for our next event there.
I get the great pleasure of getting you all to talk and connect with one another. So we are going to walk through a few steps to get you chatting with each other in small groups. One of our focuses for today's event was to do just that, to make sure that you are getting to see and hear about local advocacy groups, and also connect with others who may not have racial equity as their core work, but certainly are prioritizing that and care deeply about making sure that our Eastside community is safe and welcoming and equitable and just. And so you having the opportunity to meet others is a good part of why we're here together today. And we intentionally are going to be doing random breakout sessions in order to break down the silos, right? I know myself personally, I get can get very narrowly focused on my own little bubble and world that I work in. And I think a lot of us can feel that. And if we're in the work, it can be very isolating. If you're new to the work, it can be challenging to know where to begin and how to get those supports. So you're going to be randomly put into a group in just a few moments with folks, neighbors, and we encourage you to connect. You all have been doing fabulously with the chat. We thank you for being respectful and mindful about the use of that. And we encourage you to continue doing that in the small breakouts. One moment, and I'm going to pull up some slides for us to walk through how the groups will go, and just give me a moment to pull this up. We will have some limited time. I'll let you know how much time in each of the groups, and you'll also get a broadcast message that will go out to your group indicating some time checks as we go. So it'll be somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes, and you'll have 2 rounds. So ideally you'll get to meet 10 other folks and maybe reconnect with people that you haven't seen in a while. So it'll be fun to see how the breakouts go. So please respect that airtime, share it with one another. We encourage you to practice equity in your groups. Means a couple of different things. One is if you see someone going on and on, you know, it is okay to gently interrupt. It really, truly is. You can say, oh, wow, I really want to hear from everybody. Let's move along and make sure that we get to hear from everyone. So practice that. It's something that we all need to do and learn how to do better. Be mindful that regardless of what we may intend, we may have a way of showing an impact that is different from the way we want to show up. So please watch out for those dynamics. It's also something good just to do as an observation task, you know, in all the groups that we show up in. What are you seeing and noticing about who doesn't speak, who's not invited to speak, who's not listened to? And this is up to you. If you feel comfortable, you can share contact information with your small group. It's not required. As you go along, please make note of something that you learned and something that you'll do. Just as you're listening to others or listening to yourself speak, notice something that you learned and something that you'll do. And you'll have an opportunity to share that back in the large group when we come back together in the chat. And lastly, please keep private information confidential, of course. We ask that you respect that. So here's how it's going to go. In the first round and in the second one, this is how you'll introduce yourself. You're going to say your name, your preferred pronouns. I will demonstrate this in a moment. Where you're calling from, if you're comfortable saying that, and if you're part of any groups or organizations related to your participation in today's summit. So I'm going to start. It's going to go quick. So this, I know the story is in the title of today, but unfortunately we don't have time to hear everyone's story. So we want to make sure that each person gets a chance to talk. So I will demonstrate. Debbie Lacy, I prefer she and her pronouns. I'm calling from Kirkland, and I am part of Eastside for All, which is one of the co-hosts for the event today. So that's how you'll do it. It goes very quickly. And then we're going to go into the questions. So the questions that you will answer in your first round, when you think about what needs to change in your community, organization, workplace, or school, do you feel you have a role in creating an anti-racist environment? If so, what role do you have? Okay, and these are going to be posted in the chat. We're going to make sure you get these questions, and hopefully Yuriana is doing that now for you. You should be able to just click on the chat button when you go to your room, and you will see the chat, and we can also broadcast to you. The other question that is kind of a stretch question, but we're really asking everyone to think about this today, right? Because even if you've been in the work, and if you consider yourself to be very well versed in it, perhaps even an expert in racial equity and racial justice work, these times that we're in, between COVID, the racism that is a public health crisis, requires us to do things differently, right? Individually and together as a community. So we all have something that we could be doing a little different. So what is that commitment from you? So that's something that you can include in your conversations. So when you get the invitation, which you will get momentarily, and I'll check in with Yuriana in just a moment to see if we're all set to go. When you get the invitation to join, if you're on screen, you'll see a blue button show up. It should pop up on your screen. Please join the group. Otherwise, you're just going to be hanging out with me in the main room, and that might not be as fun. If you get invited to a new group, which may happen if we're doing some shuffling in the beginning, just know that as you all are doing your introductions, sometimes a person might pop out. Don't take it personally. We might have pulled them out to make a balance in some other groups, okay? And again, just be mindful of one another, take care, and most of all, enjoy connecting and having fun. So we're going to go ahead, and if you have any concerns, you can send a private chat message to one of the hosts, and we will do our best to resolve that for you. Let me check the time here, and I'm going to stop share so I can just make sure I'm seeing Yuriana in case we have any needs coming up with the breakout rooms. So we are at 11. Oh, we're doing so great on time, y'all. So you will have until 11:30. So you're going to take about 5 minutes, not 5 minutes per person. You're to introduce yourselves. That's 5 minutes for the whole group. Remember how quickly that went? And that gives you more time for the rich part of the conversation, which is to really connect with one another around that question. Okay, so Yuriana, are we ready to send people off into Zoom land breakout groups? Trying to see if anyone has questions that I need to answer. One of my co-hosts can pipe up if I've missed an important question coming up. Yuriana, you're on mute. There you go.
We're good to go. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, everyone, have a great time. We'll see you back here before we go to round 2. So we're all going to come back together, and then we'll send you off again. So it'll be a little bit of a roller coaster, but enjoy. Patience, if there was some shifting around in the beginning, if you couldn't hear properly, if you couldn't see everybody. This is something new, of course, to do this in this large of an event for many of us. Well, I'll speak personally, so working out a lot of the kinks, but questions are coming in about how to connect with people in your group. So I'm going to enable that's great. If you all are comfortable sharing your information with the whole group, that's fine. I'm going to try to here just to enable so that you can reach out to people privately, okay? I feel like I can trust you all. You've been behaving so well and beautifully. So again, if you did not get a chance to connect with someone and ask for their contact information, you should have the ability now to message them privately. And just a little tip, if you go to your participant box, it says find a participant at the top, so you can start typing in their name and hopefully find them there. You will see that some folks, there are multiple people by the same name. We apologize for that. Sometimes one of those was my error, and some of that is when people have shared the login and information with colleagues. So thank you all to everyone. Okay, we're going to hear from you all just via chat, please. I would love to hear if there was something new that you learned, or something that you're going to do, or perhaps an appreciation for someone or something that took place in your group. So let's hear what you have to say there. Anyone have any reflections that you want to put into the chat? Would love to see that. Again, something that you learned, a connection you made, something that you plan to do, or gratitude? I'll give you a moment to type in there. Kat's thanking her group, great. Lots of contact information being shared. Someone learned about the Intercultural Development Inventory. Yes, and it has been 1 year since the incident that happened at KTUB. Yes, we can talk more about that. Lots of gratitudes to everyone coming in. Group 9, shout out to Group 9 coming in. Thank you, Delbert. He has put his email address in, so now you have his website and email. Shout out to Group 14. Lots of gratitudes. Group 17, small but great sharing. Yes, we tried our best to balance out the groups. So again, we'll do a round 2 in just a few minutes and get you off and running, and hopefully you'll meet some new people there. Ah, someone's participating from Egypt, is that right? Fantastic. Shout out to Group 6, Group 35. Yep. You'll have to scroll through, folks, to find lots of good information. People have been posting their contact information. Someone's naming the complexity, intersectionality, and enormity of the issues at hand and how overwhelming that can be. It helped to hear how others are approaching these important topics. Thank you, Marissa. Jihan is being sent some gratitude from Jerry about the term Black versus Blacks. Very good. Group 13 shout out. This is fantastic, everyone. It's great to hear. So pleased to see you all connecting with each other, and really do hope that you will follow up. If you've been offered somebody's email, please connect. This is the work here. More and more as I do this, I know it is 99.9% about relationships and being able to connect with one another at a human level. And it makes it easier, doesn't it, to then correct a person gently, to say, well, did you realize? And that's very hard to do when we don't have a relationship. So thank you all for sharing and being part of that. Councilmember Black from Kirkland is saying Group 13 had a great discussion about turning policies into measurable results. Yes, ensuring that there is a system of accountability and performance metrics and timelines. Also understanding the structural barriers and how we operate as local agencies to inadvertently create barriers to participation. Yes, so much to be learned, so much unpacking. There's no real growth without discomfort. Yes, yes. Thank you, Delbert, for that. Wow, everyone, I am just really so pleased to see everyone connecting, all your great comments. We are sharing the chat for our purposes to be able to make some connections, answer questions that we didn't get to. I know in the first half, there was several of you that were sending some private messages to us with some questions. So we're gonna do our best in the coming days to get back to you all, and you will have access to some materials. In fact, I'm going to post right now, you should have gotten an email this morning with this link, but just in case, I'm posting that now for you. And it's time for me to get you settled in some new groups. Are you all ready to meet some new folks? Reconnect with other neighbors? Yes, okay. So I'm going to share my screen. All right, so round 2, you're going to do the same introduction. Okay, please keep it brief as you saw. If you go on too long there, you just have less time for the rest of the conversation. Please remember to be respectful, share the airtime, all those good things. Here's the question. Do you feel some things get in the way for you when you try to actively combat racism? Do you feel some things get in the way? What do you notice that gets in the way in yourself, others, and or the system? Okay, and Yurian is putting this in the chat for us. Again, what do you feel gets in the way? And then what are you committed to doing differently? Okay, that's that stretch question that we're asking of ourselves and all of you today is what's different that needs to happen when it comes to actively standing up against racism in our community? Okay, let me do a time check here to see how much time we have for this part. Hold on, folks, while you're taking that question in. 12:05. Yes, so everybody's going to come back at 12:05. So I'm going to stop sharing here in a minute. Love this technology stuff. There we go. We're going to get you all settled into new groups. So, all right, Yuriana, are we ready for everyone to go meet new folks? It can be a long morning. We really appreciate your commitment, your support for the event, and you taking the time to connect with others in the breakout spaces. Lots of gratitudes coming in. Thank you. All right, so we just got back from our round 2 discussions and inviting you all to share a bit if you'd like, anything that stood out to you that you learned, something that you maybe are inspired to do, or a gratitude, of course. We welcome those. Thank you. Everyone's, oh yes, whoever was in with Nora, I'm sure had a wonderful conversation. I see so many great friends and colleagues here. It's heartwarming. The hope, I didn't know I needed so badly, right, to be in connection. Just how many individuals and groups are working throughout East King County. Thank you for that, Caitlin. And this is a fairly new development for us too. We've seen at least 5 new Black-led East King County groups come forward this spring, since June, many of them. It's incredible to see. Group 31 shout out, had a great conversation around systems, ways that we as cogs in the system can change it. Yes. Thank you all for posting some things in the chat that you're noticing and seeing. It looks like Councilmember Valducci from King County was in several groups. We appreciate that. Oh, okay, group 26 in the first one, group 25th and 25 in the second. And a shout out to the city of Kirkland. Wonderful. Great conversation, inspiring, much gratitude for everyone. Thank you for leaning into brave conversations, hardworking, committed community members. Fantastic, everyone. Oh, these are little like love notes that I'm just going to soak in all the rest of today and tomorrow. Thank you so much. All right, well, I so appreciate you taking the time. Please continue connecting with folks because you've all been so great about creating gracious space here. We were able to keep the chat open. And what we will ask in just a little while when we go to our performer is that we want to quiet the chat down at that time. But up until then, please feel free to connect with one another. If you're comfortable, you can privately or publicly share your contact information. Really appreciate all the gratitudes coming in and the ways that you were able to be present for one another and take the time for that today. So at this point, what I would like to do is turn it over. Is that right where we are? Yes, turn it over to Mr. Mike Murphy again. Mike, are you on board here?
I'm ready to go. Thanks very much,
Great.
Debbie. All right, folks, I have a little screen share I'm going to pull up. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for its blurriness. I needed to make it big enough to be seen. Years ago, Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition created a project that we simply call the Arch. The Arch is a place where folks all around East King County can display their messages of commitment against racism on the East Side. It was built out of a single racist act and has since taken on kind of a life of its own and visits schools, city halls, businesses, and other organizations all over the East Side. We're coming up to our 4th year, I believe it is. Anyway, we're in a different time now, obviously. We're in this time where we can't get together and go visit the Arch. So what Eastside Race and Leadership is in process of doing is we're using Kudo Board to create a platform where you can virtually post your Arch messages on virtual cloths, like the ones you see in this photo. So like I said, we're in the process of doing this, so just keep your eyes on the Eastside Race and Leadership Coalition website, and we will have that to you ASAP in the midst of everything else we have going on in our lives. It is happening, and we welcome you ahead of time and look forward to seeing your postings. Ken, would you like to share a little more on the resources and other things going on around the East Side?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. But thank you first for you and your commitment to the arch. You have definitely been the arch champion in terms of making sure it gets to where it gets to and keeping it, active and making sure that our community continues to commit. You were all sent an email with handouts with a list of kind of the next steps, but also up and coming events that our cities, our organizations, and other things that are happening within our community, particularly on the East Side, we'll be following through on. And so that is coming out to you or has been out to you and is continue to being updated. And so we'll make sure that those updates happen, and we'll get you more information as other activities are going on. Back to you, Mike.
All right. I get the pleasure of introducing these folks. First of all, it's a pleasure for me because this group has been named officially a friend of the Little School, the school where I teach in Bellevue. Ocheami is a group of educators and artists who share West African culture through drumming, dance, songs, and storytelling, all staples of Black lives all over the world. They're going to lead us into some drumming for Black lives. We want to thank you, Ocheami, for gifting us with this moment to just take care of ourselves for a little bit of therapy and a little bit of celebration, and helping us to re-energize ourselves so we can get on to this work that is so important. So, ladies and gentlemen, Ocheami.
Hello. Hello. This is Ama and Kofi. We're going to start with the piece entitled We Are Dying. It's one of my favorite pieces. So I'd ask Kofi if we could start that out. So first we're going to think about this as our self-care because you where you are right now, we know we're called the AP class. So you are already there and doing the work. So what we need to do is all of us take care of ourselves and just kind of tune in to ourselves and our ancestors. Yeri-wo, yeri-wo. Aye. Yeri-wo, yeri-wo. So again, welcome, and we're so honored to be part of this. So we say drumming for Black lives. This is the drum has always been very important to our African culture because during the transatlantic slave trade, the drums were destroyed when we were brought to the States. And we all know the history. Delbert I want to say you did an awesome job. You said it all. So we don't need to,
Love you.
Yes, our work
Yes.
is good because of you.
All
So
right.
we are more so the cultural component, the drumming component. So the drum sends the message to our ancestors, and our ancestors respond with the message that what we need to do is keep doing the work. This is the work. This is the time. And we want to also honor Breonna Taylor. Say her name, Breonna Taylor.
Yeah.
Say her name, Breonna Taylor. Say her name, Breonna Taylor.
That's right.
Thank you. So let's call them and let's see what the message is.
Thank you.
When we do a lot of work in the schools and the education, and we're doing what we call now educational reconstruction. So we have designed a new way of teaching, using drums to teach math, to teach science, to teach about the natural world. And our favorite group is the preschoolers. Now, those are the smartest individuals on the planet. Because what I tell them is that you just came from the other world, because from the other dimension. So you brought some stuff. And also I wanted to talk about what the ancestors said. And I was listening and they said, you see me smiling a lot because I know whose shoulders that we stand on. And what they've said to me is that as we deal with this double pandemic of systemic racism and also the pandemic of COVID, and we're from the vulnerable population, of course, that we die, as elders die 5 times more than any other group. 5 times more, because the legacy that we inherited, we're under a lot of stress, and we call it intergenerational trauma. So as we talk about our universal right now trauma, because we're all in this together. What happens to you happens to me. People are afraid, we say Black Lives Matter. And I tell them Black lives, when I have to tell them all the time, just because we're talking about Black lives doesn't mean your lives doesn't matter. It just means this is the subject that we're talking about right now. So there's nothing fearful. Because Kofi and I've been doing this work for over 50 years. And Kofi, how many years have you been doing this work?
I've been doing it for about 63 years old.
63 years?
Yes, 63 years. I've been doing
Yes,
it.
your work.
Yeah, my first time of doing, introduced to this kind of work is when I was really young, marching in front of our first president of Ghana, called Kwame Nkrumah. That was 1957 when we get independence. And I was right there marching right in front of him. That's when the light came to me, boom, like, wow, this is a different era. And I have been catching, doing this work ever since. So it's a pleasure to share that with you. And do you have anything to say?
Well, I wanted to mention one more thing.
Okay.
About you that we don't mention. It's a lot of things that about us, because it's not about us that we really don't mention. But one of the things that I think was, it's like all of a sudden, like when I heard the drums, it's like when you go through our educational system, what I find, to find the answer, I knew what it wasn't. So it was always, I was very bright, but I'm just saying, this is something missing. This is just wasn't, I know this wasn't it. And when I heard the drum, that's when I kind of like went, woo. I was like, I felt like I was hypnotized, right? And so it's like being in the deer lights. That's why I love the movie Get Out. That's one of my favorite movies. It's like, woo.
Yeah. The thing is, what we don't understand, and the reason why drums were outlawed a long time ago by the, the overseers when they came to Africa, it scared them because there's no two ways about it. We all have one inside our body. So it affects you very, very strongly. When you hear the drum, either it affects you negatively or positively. People that love it, they love it. People that doesn't like it, they really hate it with passion. So that's the way it is. Because we all have the drum inside. When you are in your mommy's room, what you heard first was her heartbeat, right? Boom, 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 boom.
Can you play a little heartbeat?
So when you came out, the same thing, you don't hear your heart, you don't hear anybody's heart, but when you hear the drum, it's like heart. So this, I'm going to play you a heartbeat on the drum.
But what I was going to say, so I have been doing this work for over 50 years. I started, Kofi and I met in Oakland, California. And at that time, I was still dealing with the trauma of the Black Panther Party and my friends, my comrades, my relatives, the experiences. It was a lot of good things, but there were a lot of really traumatizing things that happened to people that I love for just feeding our community, for just standing up to the police brutality, so many things, and then our great migration. So it was like just turmoil. And like I said, it's intergenerational. My wish is that there would be one time when there would be a trauma Olympics and we did not qualify. Wouldn't that be awesome? Ooh, yes, not in any area. We was like, okay, we taking this one out. We're not gonna qualify for this, but we love our work and we are so hopeful and so incredibly proud of people standing up. Because like I said, we're all in this together.
And we are honored to be part of this program here, because this we hope to reach a lot of people, and this program here should really change people's heart to really do what is necessary for the change to come about. Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you.
Whose lives matter?
Thank you. Black Lives Matter.
Very good. Get yourself going. Whoa. Well,
Thank
we're
you.
gonna finish it up. Let's roll it.
Okay, we're gonna finish it up now.
And we wish you love.
I wish you love and
peace and respect.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ocheami. Thank you so much. Much love. Sending you the love there. That was amazing. That was great. We appreciate all the work that you're doing and the energy that you shared with us today. So appreciate that. We want to thank you for all the work that everybody did today in terms of helping and supporting and making this event happen. And really a big shout out to Debbie Lacy, who really kind of helped and directed and coordinated all the work that we have today, but also to Delbert and to Mike and to and to their work and how they shared today, and also the great conversations that we had within our small groups in the work that we're doing out there in the community, and having courageous voices to be able to step up and be able to share and be able to do the work. I want to share a quick quote from James Baldwin. "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." And that's really what it's all about in terms of people stepping up, people making things happen. In an email that you got a list of handouts for the next steps and events and activities that are coming up in each one of our cities. They're doing good work. Step up, be courageous, take the risk, and help and support some of those things that are going on. Also, within our community, in each one of our communities, there's also a list of BIPOC and immigrant-owned restaurants. Please help and support them. And my tummy is really saying it's hungry and it's time for a little bit of food. There's a list of local area restaurants, and I think I have most of them picked out for the next week here for me to be fed. Would like to do kind of to close everything off with really is to have folks, kind of unmute themselves and really share, and in any language you want to share a thank you to our sponsors, to our presenters, and to everyone in the group today. So if you want to jump on, unmute yourselves in any language you want to, please share and thank you. And we all appreciate all the work that you're doing and all the things that are helping our community to address the issues that are happening.